There's a huge problem right at the heart of American business, and it all comes down to the struggle for capital. So many entrepreneurs get left behind by the old school system, but a really powerful new solution has popped up. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack this massive funding gap and the game-changing industry that was built to fix it.
Okay, imagine for a second you own a shop, and you have to turn away 9 out of every 10 customers that walk in. Sounds like a terrible way to run a business, right? Well, believe it or not, that is exactly what's happening in the world of business funding. A jaw-dropping 90% of small businesses get rejected by traditional banks. That one number, it explains pretty much one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs are up against today.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into the real scale of this 90% problem. Then, we're going to find out why banks have to say no so much. After that, we'll check out the huge new industry that grew to fill that void. But as you'll see, that solution kind of created its own confusing maze, which then leads us to a really smart, elegant final fix.
All right, let's start with the big issue. We're talking about what could be the single most underserved market in the entire country, small business owners. I mean, these are the people who form the backbone of our economy, but they're being starved of the one thing they need to grow, capital.
The numbers here really just paint a wild picture. In the US, there are over 30 million small businesses. But an incredible 27 million of them are basically locked out of getting traditional bank funding. That leaves this tiny little sliver who are even eligible to try.
And look, this isn't just some minor inconvenience. We're talking about a fight for survival. When you ask business owners why their ventures didn't make it, this is the #1 reason they give. This funding gap is literally the difference between a dream taking off and a going out of business sign on the door.
So the big question is, why? Right? Why are the institutions that are supposed to be funding businesses turning so many of them away? Well, to get it, you really have to understand the ridiculous gauntlet they make people run.
The bar is just set incredibly high. First off, collateral. Banks need something they can take if you can't pay, but most small businesses don't own big assets like property. So, no collateral, instant rejection. Then, they want to see 2 straight years of profit, a practically perfect credit score of 700 or more, and a super formal business plan that the bank has to sign off on. And even if you survive all that, you're still waiting 1 to 3 months for an answer. For most entrepreneurs, every single one of these is a dead end.
And the result of that incredibly strict process? Out of 30 million businesses, less than 1 million can actually check all those boxes. It just goes to show you that traditional bank loans are really only designed for a very specific, very small, and very established type of company. And this is what changed everything. If the front door is slammed shut for 27 million entrepreneurs, where are they supposed to go? That massive need, it literally created a brand new financial world. This is where the story gets really interesting. Welcome to what we call the alternative capital boom, an entire industry that was born out of the needs of the other 90%.
So, what is alternative capital anyway? Well, it's a totally different way of looking at things. Instead of obsessing over assets or how many years you've been profitable, this industry looks at a business's actual cash flow. They give you funding based on things like your monthly revenue, and they don't require any collateral. That one little change opens the door for millions of businesses.
I mean, the difference is just night and day. Where the banks build walls, this new industry built a runway. Instead of waiting for months, you can get funded the very next day. Instead of needing a perfect credit score, the requirements are way more flexible. And you don't need some rigid business plan. You can use the money for whatever your business actually needs.
And let's be clear, this isn't some little niche thing. We are talking about a massive $300 billion industry that is just exploding in size. It grew from $284 billion just last year, and it's projected to hit nearly $380 billion. This has become a seriously powerful and legitimate force in business finance.
Okay, so problem solved, right? Millions of businesses can now get funding. Well, not so fast. This boom in options actually created a new, and in some ways, more complicated problem, a maze of too many choices.
So here's the catch. There are over 100 different alternative capital lenders out there, and while having options sounds great, the truth is no single one of them is the best fit for every business. The lender that's perfect for a restaurant could be the absolute worst choice for a trucking company.
You see, each lender has its own little quirks, its own sweet spot. Some of them love trucking companies but won't even look at a restaurant. Others might specialize in construction but turn down retail businesses.
For a business owner trying to figure this out alone, it's like throwing darts in the dark. How are you supposed to find the one lender who thinks your business is the perfect investment?
So how do you solve the maze? This is where the last piece of the puzzle just clicks into place. You don't need more options, you need a guide. And that's exactly what a platform solution offers.
The idea is incredibly simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. Instead of the business owner having to apply to a dozen different places, they fill out just one simple 5-minute application. That one application then goes out to over 20 of the top lenders, who all compete against each other to give that business the best offer they possibly can.
And here's something that's a huge deal for the business owner. Instead of having 20 different credit inquiries hitting their report, there's just one, a single FICO pull, and it doesn't hurt their score. It's fast, it's safe, and it just gets rid of all the usual stress and worry. And the platform is so confident, they back it up with a pretty amazing guarantee. They are so sure they can find the absolute best offer out there that they will literally pay you $500 if you can find a better one somewhere else. It's a bold way of saying, hey, we already did all the shopping for you.
You know, at the end of the day, this is about more than just loans and interest rates. The philosophy is really simple. Business owners are the creative force. They're the rock stars. They have these amazing ideas, and capital is just the instrument they need to share their music with the world. This platform's whole job is to get that instrument into their hands.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. When you finally remove the single biggest thing holding back millions of entrepreneurs, what becomes possible? Just think about the innovations, the growth, the jobs that could be created when that 90% finally gets a funding partner that was actually built for them.